Nobody starts at the finish line. You have to start somewhere. In order for you to get to where you're going, to meet that destination, you can't think that you're going to get there instantly.
Welcome to another episode of the Mr. Mindful Minute podcast, where we touch on different things, on different areas from different topics of life. And today we are touching on the topic of understanding real estate and what that actually means. And I just have a special guest that I'm honored to have her here today. Look, I am going to let you introduce yourself to the people. Please tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and what it is that you specialize in.
All right. So, hi, everyone. My name is Dawn Harris. I am a proud member of the Daybreak team of Keller Williams Philadelphia, which I founded with my business partner, Dawn Fussell. I hail from West Philly, not born, but raised since the age of 3. And we specialize in residential sales, and we serve the Philadelphia market, Delaware County, Montgomery County, and we're also licensed in the states of Delaware and North Carolina as well.
Okay. So that actually starts off a really great question that I actually have is, why is there a requirement for you to have like certifications in, say, Philly, Delaware? Like, how does that actually work?
Got you. So there's not really certifications for the different areas. Like, I'm licensed per state. So I personally carry the license in Pennsylvania and Delaware. Dawn Fussell is licensed in Pennsylvania and North Carolina. But I don't specialize in every single area because I'm not familiar with all areas. So I tend to hone in on and focus on those neighborhoods where there is some familiarities and, where I know some things. I don't want to be selling or trying to sell a product or a neighborhood that I'm not familiar with, because it wouldn't be fair to the consumer.
Oh, okay. All right. So if I understand right, then that just means when you're licensed in different areas, that just means you really know the demographic of the area, you know the school system, so to say, if it's good or bad. And so that's the importance of why you would actually need to be licensed in those different areas. So now when somebody goes to buy a property, you're like, oh no, this is what you might need to know, and this is what you might need to want to stay away from.
Right. Yeah. So the license is like, I'm licensed for the entire state of Pennsylvania. So I can sell real estate in Pennsylvania, but I don't sell real estate everywhere in Pennsylvania. So like, we'll get referrals or people reaching out to us to purchase in Harrisburg and the Poconos. And a couple of things. Number one, I'm not going to drive 3 hours away for showings. And that's not because I'm selfish, but it's not cost effective. It's not the wisest thing as far as business practices or business practice goes. So I focus on the areas that I'm familiar with. Yep.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. All right. So
Yeah.
let
But
me
there
ask
are
you.
different certifications I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Please.
Okay. Now, I was going to say there are different certifications that agents can get that specialize with a different type of demographic. Like, you have designations that say that you went and took some education for senior citizens, or first-time home buyers, or you can be a listing specialist. I don't hold any of those designations because I work with anybody that needs assistance. We've worked with the elderly, we work with the young, we work in condos, we'll sell multifamily, we do it all. But you can go back to school to get certain designations.
Oh, okay. All right. So now I just want to have a proper understanding. Like, is there some things that you feel as though that people just don't understand about real estate? Like, from a standpoint of being a homeowner and then somebody that's an investor. Like, what are the differences?
Right. Yeah. Well, I feel that there's a lot that people don't understand about real estate. Some of which I feel is intentional, right? We're not educated to want to acquire land. I feel like now things are starting to come full circle. Discussions are being had, a lot of which is the result of social media, and is just being able to get more information out there that was, even possible 10, 15 years ago. And so private home ownership, or ownership for primary residence versus from an investor standpoint, the way I look at it is you're an investor, period. Like, even if you're acquiring a home for primary residency, it's still an investment. At the end of the day, you are putting money into an asset, and you ought to care where that money is going. And I refer to it as kind of like a forced savings account, because over time your investment is going to appreciate, and you're able to convert properties into cash. So I would say, whenever you're going into acquiring real estate, whether it be for you to live in or for you to place tenants in, you should always look at it as an investment. Always.
All right. So you actually just touched on something that, like, it just piqued my interest because I've been hearing about it. You talked about buying land. So is there a difference from
Mhm.
buying land versus buying a property? And I know it sounds very vague, but is there a difference?
Mhm. Absolutely. So buying land is, there's nothing developed on it. You're just buying a lot. There's no home. Sometimes there's no utility hookups there, but you can absolutely just buy land. And depending on what use you're looking to do, if it's going to be for agriculture, or if you're planning on developing a property there, those things will come, and you want to make decisions based on future plans. But you have land purchases, you have single family purchases, when it's, a home that is designed for one family to reside in there. And it's very different, because you're actually acquiring a piece of real property. So real property is property that is developed, that is an actual home.
Okay, so is there from your standpoint, is there like a benefit to one or the other? Like, does one outweigh the other?
In my opinion, no. But I think it really depends on who you talk to, right? So in my
Okay.
webinars, I have a quote in one of my slides, and it is something that my grandfather taught my mom about, and what he instilled in his children, which was, as long as you own real estate, you'll never go broke. And that's something that she passed down to all of us. There's a gentleman that I watch a lot. He's a financial advisor on Instagram. And he said something really interesting one day, which was, if everything just crashed and burned, right? But houses went on fire and we had to start from scratch. If you don't own land to begin developing vegetables on, your food on, what are you going to do if you don't
Hmm.
have land to start all over with? So, in my honest opinion, I don't say that one outweighs the other. My advice is, if you can acquire real estate, whether it be land, whether it be property, actual developed property, then do it. Then do it.
Okay. All right. That's really good advice because if you're in a position to diversify,
Hmm.
then, as you're saying, you should, because at the end of the day, there is currency in both of them.
Absolutely.
Okay. All
Absolutely.
right.
There were lots in Philadelphia just a few years back that were selling in the teens, 13, 14. Those same lots today are now worth 60, 70, just because of what the real estate is doing right now in
Hmm.
certain areas. So you just had a lot. You probably had to maintain the grass over the past 3 years, but you've gained over 50,000 in equity. You could turn around, not develop anything on that land at all, but put it on the market and sell it and make about 50,000 off of it. You're not seeing that type of return by having your money sitting in a standard savings account or traditional savings account with any of these
Hmm.
banks.
Oh wow. Now you got me like, man, stop looking at those properties and go look at a lot. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, you can't, some people want to buy properties, investors, everybody has a different angle. So there are some investors out there where their goal is to acquire a property for pennies on the dollar and sell high, right? They want to be in and out in 6 months. They want the biggest return possible. You have others that are buying and holding for years because they're looking at longevity. They're looking at how much will this area appreciate over the next 10, 15 years, right? Then you have others where it's just simple. I just want to buy as many lots and kind of see what the neighborhoods do over time. So it really depends on the person. It's an individual choice, really. There's really no set rules here.
No real guidelines to it. It's like, oh, whatever your personal
Mm-mm.
individual needs are, then try to
Yep.
find something that is going to fit your tailored needs and not
Yep.
look at it from a standpoint, oh, well, that's what they doing, so that's what I gotta do. No,
No.
find out what works for you. Okay.
Right. Absolutely. Not everybody wants to be a landlord.
Not everybody want to be a
No.
now this, I know it's some downsides to it. Like we always hear all the upsides to that, and that's the question that I want to actually ask you. From your
Mm-hmm.
standpoint of in being in the field that you in,
Mm-hmm.
how does a person actually say, you know what, I want to become an investor so I can now start, renting properties and stuff? Like, how is there a process of, as an investor and then with the real estate agents where y'all work together?
Absolutely. So we work with a number of investors. So once one, and we don't necessarily take them from start to finish on the business aspect of it all, right? Because as an investor, there are some things you're going to want to have in place before you begin to acquire your properties. Some investors go and set up their LLCs, make sure their business accounts are open. They start funding those accounts. They can then begin acquiring real estate. We kind of step in once they're at that point. They'll reach out to us, the daybreak team, and it's like, okay, here's my budget. These are the areas I'm looking for. Can you help me find something? And then that's when we kind of step in to bring them the deals. We'll ask them questions such as, it really depends on the need. So again, we have some people who are looking to buy and hold, which means they're going to acquire the property and more than likely place a tenant in there, right, for a certain amount of time. You have others where they want to acquire property and they care heavily about the ARV, which stands for after repair value, because they're looking to acquire it, get a crew in there to rehab the property, put it right back on the market, and get the highest return possible. So it really depends on the goal of that investor.
Okay, so I mean, I know you talked about the ARV, which is foreign language to a lot of people, right? And so is there some type of way to bridge that understanding if a person wants to get into investors? Say they just now starting. They like, you know what? I think I want to get into real estate. And I know you said y'all don't really deal with the business side, but say now they got the business side, they got the LLC, and they like, all right, I got my, business credit going. They contact you guys. What does that look like in that process?
Sure. So when they reach out to my team, there's going to first be a conversation. So it's really just listening. Like we're really big on listening so we can hear what the true needs of one are. Because some people will say they want to do one thing. And then after listening to them, it's like, okay, so you're telling me that you need a house that's going to yield you at least $100,000 after you sell it, but you're also talking 5 years from now. So are we talking about holding this property for the next 5 years? So the first step would be to understand the needs, the overall goal. We create a profile for every client that we work with. And then depending on where one is searching, we're a team of right now 7 agents. And so depending on the area, the neighborhood, you'll be matched with an agent that services those areas. And from there, we're beginning to send properties out to you to check out. We do initial vetting. So of course, we're going to need to make sure that one has proof of funds. And that could be if you're using a hard money lender, a pre-approval letter. It could be you have your own liquid cash in an account or money in an account. So we would need to see bank statements to show that you do have the funds to acquire the property that you've expressed to us that you'd like to grab. And from there, we begin taking you out to see houses. Once you've identified a property and decide to move forward with an offer, we do and during that process, at some point, we're establishing a working relationship, meaning we're having you sign an official document, contract, that states that you're bringing us on to represent you in your real estate transaction. And as your real estate professionals, we're taking you from start to finish, right? So we have the initial consultation. We are showing you homes in person. We're doing the private tours. We will be preparing contracts, helping you interpret those contacts, because for some people it's all foreign language. But the truth of the matter is, these documents that you're signing, these are legally binding documents. When you're putting an offer in on a property, it's a legally binding contract, right? So it's important that you understand the meat of that contract and that you have all your questions answered. So we handle all of that, putting them together, interpreting them for you, negotiating any additional terms on your behalf with the investor or the home buyer's permission, of course. You know, your feedback, ultimately, you're the decision makers, but we're there to act as that buffer. The agents are between the buyer and the seller. So agents communicate with each other unless it's a situation where one is buying a home that is listed by the seller. So that would be a FSBO, which stands for sale by owner. And if that's the case, then it's really just the buyer's agent communicating directly with the seller. But we take you from start to finish. We ensure that, you know, you're set up for title services, because that's an important piece of acquiring property. We make sure that you're able to get title insurance. That's extremely important. That protects a buyer from any title defects in the future. Somebody trying to come back to you in the future and say, hey, you don't own this property. I technically do. You need to have a title policy to say that, no, we went about it the right way and we're protected and you can't come take my property. And then, of course, we help you get to the settlement table. So we're there to celebrate you getting keys, and then hopefully we're able to turn it around and do it on your next project. That's always the goal. So we take you from A to Z, every step in between.
Oh, nice. That is, listen, and you started speaking things just because I have an understanding of real estate and I've been like navigating into that realm, and I'm like, okay, all right, yep, that sounds familiar. Yep, that sounds familiar. Okay, I get that process. And then I like how your team actually, you know, y'all go about it. Okay, we're going to follow you from point A all the way to Z, so you can understand this whole process, and you not just, oh, well, I don't know what's going on. I told them what I want and they doing all the work. And y'all like, nah, you need to understand this too.
No. Mm-mm.
Right,
Yeah, we're really big on education. So it's no fun. And it's interesting that you said that, because there are some people out there that view us as, yes, they're representatives, but that they'll handle everything. But that's not going to help you in the long run. Like, we're big on laying that foundation. Like I said, this is a legally binding contract. This is one of the largest purchases that one could make in their lifetime. And you should have a full understanding, right? At least you should be able to fully grasp what's happening on your behalf. And so we heavily believe in laying that foundation, educating you on the process. That's why we do the webinars. You know, we do those twice a month. And then we're here throughout the process for any questions and concerns. And the education is ongoing. Like, it's not like we have this consultation and you're done. No, because 2 weeks into us working together, you're probably going to forget most of, if not all, that we've reviewed. So those refreshers are needed constantly from everyone involved. It's necessary.
Okay. All right. And that makes sense, you know, because like you said, in 2 weeks, if I ain't write it down, guess what? I ain't gonna, never mind, because I forget.
Right. And sometimes I talk fast. Like, sometimes I have to go back and I'm like, wait, Dawn, you're talking too fast. I'll be like, so are you with me? You understand what I'm saying? They're like, yeah. I'm like, you might just be saying yeah because you're tired of me talking. So I'm gonna have to double back. But yeah, foundation is important.
Okay, so let me ask you this.
Sure.
So we understand the process now. If a person wants to be an investor, but what does that process look different if you want to be the home owner now?
There are a few steps that may differ. It really depends. I mean, the way to really look at it is, the biggest difference is going to be a cash purchase versus one that's financing, right? So if one is financing, which is of course borrowing money from um, a lending institution to acquire their property, the process for an investor or your standard buyer is going to be about the same. You're going to have to be able to show proof of funds. You're going to have clear title. Depending on the property, more than likely you're going to want to do inspections, right? So that would apply to an investor or a buyer that's looking to acquire a primary residence. An appraisal is going to be involved if you're financing. So that an appraisal is what a buyer pays for the service, but they're really working on behalf of the bank, right? The appraiser is the one that's coming out to evaluate the property to let the bank know, all right, this house is worth the amount of money that you are lending to the buyer. And that could be an investor, again, or somebody who's acquiring a home for their primary residence. So the steps are definitely very similar, and that includes clear title. Clear title is going to be for anyone. I recommend it. Not everybody worries about getting title policies. If you're financing, it's an absolute must. If you're a cash buyer, it's optional. In my opinion, it should never be optional. Like you should want to, again, that's a large asset. You should want to have that protection in place. But yeah, so when you are financing, steps involved will be very similar, whether you are acquiring a property, an investment property, or a primary residence. If you're using cash to purchase real estate, then you're going to be cutting out a lot of the steps. More than likely, you're not going to do an appraisal. Underwriters will not be involved at that point. You may not even want to do an inspection, really. You may, depending on how bad you want the property, you may decide to waive all inspections, especially if you're going to do a full rehab anyway. So it's much faster. Timeline wise, if you're doing a standard purchase, and you're financing, it's anywhere from 30 to 45 days to close on that property once you've identified the property and gone under contract. So 30 to 45 days from the day you've gone under contract. With a cash purchase, could be 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, because really you're just waiting for clear title to come back.
Okay. All right. So if I'm, going through the process with you and I say, hey, I want to get this house. My credit is say 620. I don't know, 620. And I come to you guys and I'm like, I'm looking to buy a house. I don't know where to go. I don't know where to start. How does that look on y'all part? Like how do y'all help me as a consumer who's now trying to get a property to move into?
Absolutely. So I'll start off by saying, because I'm sure people will hear this from other people, other professionals. One can get with some lenders a loan, a home loan with a credit score as low as a 580, right?
Really?
With the score that low, like FHA will approve loans as low as a 580. But understand that the credit score is 580, but you have to be strong in other areas. So a 580 means you have to be coming to the table with a lot of money, right? And that's not the case for a lot of the people that we work with. People are in need of assistance from the seller to help out with closing costs. They're in need of first-time home buying programs. With a 620, your interest rates get a little better than that of those who have a score of a 580. We encourage you to shoot as low as a 660, because once you're at a 660, now you can tap into a lot of the first-time home buying programs that are out there if you are a first-time home buyer, right? If you're not a first-time home buyer and you wouldn't be able to take advantage of the programs, then okay, go for your house with the 620. But for those out there who are in need of the assistance, we absolutely encourage to get a game plan in place and find out what it is that you need to do to help boost those scores. And so for that all happens in our initial conversation where we're having our buyer consultation. So at that time, we're asking the buyer, have you been tracking your credit scores? Are they accurate? Is there anything you're disputing at this time, right? Not that we're credit repair specialists, but we're trying to understand where that potential buyer is and who they need to speak to next. So if someone tells us, like, my current FICO score is a 620, or we're in the fives, we know we have work to do. Great. We want them to work with the credit repair specialist. right? If somebody is, I'm not too sure, like, and that would apply to people who come to us and they say they have repossessions on their credit. We know right now we got to get you over to a credit repair specialist, have them look at it and work with that score a little bit. Some people are just not sure. And for that, the loan officers that we work with heavily, they don't believe in telling anybody no. It's always like, not right now, right?
Yeah.
So if they go in and they pull credit and they see that it's around the 600, 620s, and you can still have some repossessions, you can have student loans on there, some stuff that may be hurting the score, but maybe they see something on the credit reports that could help you. So they would give a game plan that says maybe put $300 here, $500 here, and wait 30 days and let those scores update. And if you do, here's what your score will be sitting at. And at that time,
Oh.
we should then move forward, because you can then take advantage of the programs that are available for that person. So yeah, game plans are important. So as far as what we do when it comes to credit scores, we're really just having that initial conversation so that we can then convey that information over to the next party, whether it be the loan officer or the credit repair specialist.
All right. So my question now is, okay, we've had this conversation, and then I know what my credit score is, and this and the third. How do I determine how much my monthly mortgage payments are going to be? Because some people think that is because of, say, how much I put down, but then somebody else might say, well, no, it's the taxes. So how do we have a good understanding of what a person's mortgage payments will be?
Right. So what we actually encourage people to do is, when you're going through this process, when you're going through the process of getting pre-approved for a loan, you should be dictating to the loan officer and to the realtors, really, right? You should be dictating to the both of us how much money you're comfortable paying every month. So it would go like, some people right now have really high rent payments and they're looking to bring it down some. But during that initial conversation, we're asking, what's your ideal monthly payment? Have you budgeted it out? Well, how much do you want to pay? Well, we don't want to go any higher than $1,000. Great. When you talk to that loan officer, you let them know you don't want to go any higher than $1,000. They need to be really specific about the areas, because Delaware County taxes vary very differently than Philadelphia, the city of Philadelphia taxes, right? The same goes for Montgomery County. So if you're telling me I want my payment to be $1,000 and I want to buy in the city of Philadelphia, okay, great. Your buying power may be, now this is hypothetically, right? I'm just trying to paint the picture here. Your buying power in Philly could be 175, 180. And with that, we're knowing we have to keep your taxes under $1,500 a year, right? To hit that goal, keeping your monthly payments comfortable. We need to keep taxes $1,500 or less. We can't go over, let's say, 180. If they're like, we want to go to Delaware County, possibly, okay, that may drop that buying power down to about let's say 145, 150, because we know the taxes are going to be much higher, like around the 4,000, 5,000 price range. And we're trying to keep you in budget of that $1,000. So, and when trying to figure that out, I say the consumer should be dictating their level of comfort, and they should have at least a general idea of the neighborhood they want to go to, so that the loan officer can then provide an illustration of how much house they can afford based on where they want to live.
Okay. So is there also a factor how much money I make? Is that a factor also?
Oh, absolutely. So when you are going through the process, they're going to be looking at credit. They're going to be looking at how much money you have saved, which they refer to as your assets, right? So that can be money that you have in a checking or savings account. It could be your 401k plan, your assets. They're also going to be looking at your income, both monthly and annual, right? Because debt to income ratio plays a factor. You'll hear that term when you're going through the process, which you may hear people refer to as DTI, debt to income ratio. So that is I'm gonna explain it my way, right? A loan officer could do a much better job than me, but to keep it easy, look, I believe in simplifying stuff. So the amount of money that you make a month, right? Less your monthly liabilities, your recurring liabilities. So we're not talking if you have a credit card balance of $5,000, they're not taking into consideration the 5,000. They'll look at what that monthly payment is. So let's say the monthly payment is $100. That's what they're going to factor into your DTI, right? So with all your monthly liabilities, you have your gross income, your monthly liabilities, and whatever's left over up to, let's say 50% of your gross income is how much buying power you'll have to acquire that piece of real estate.
Wow.
Did that make sense? I tried to simplify it, but
complete sense.
Okay, because I don't do the best job with it.
No, that makes complete sense.
Okay.
Because now you really gave a breakdown of how it's actually identified with your income, and then also with knowing the taxes of the property, and then also knowing the area
Right.
that you're actually trying to move and how much the house is going to afford. So now we know, okay, if my credit score is a 620, but I want to move, say, somewhere with higher taxes, then I'm not going to get approved for the 170. Probably only going to get approved for the 120 now, which now they're going to look at how much I'm bringing in on a monthly basis, and that's going to dictate if I actually will get approved for that property anyway. I like how you did that. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Right. Okay. All right.
So is there any other thing that you would say is just something that people should just know from a standpoint of being looking for, property and things like that? Because I even know people that say, for example, they don't have a job, but they are like a private contractor. Like they get contracts from, say, Amazon or something like that. Does that even look different trying to buy a property if you don't have a W-2 versus you have a 1099? Because they may be self-employed.
Right. Yep. So make sure I ask I'm going to answer both your questions. So as far as, I think you asked me, what do I want people to know about real estate? Okay. So here's one thing that I love for people to think on, and that is, I'm not a fan of long-term renting. I'm a very frugal person. If it's free, it's for me. That's what I tell people. Like, I don't like spending money. So at some point, me personally, I would like to see a monthly payment run out. If I know that there's going to be a deadline, that's just what I would like to see. And there's one thing that's very true, and that is we'll always need a roof over our head. Like always, there's not going to come a point in life where you're going to say, oh, guess what? I no longer need a house. I no longer need a place to go. And so for us, we advocate for home ownership for several different reasons. Number one, it's the cornerstone of generational. You can't grow wealth-wise from owning real estate. It's a lie. Like, let's just make that perfectly clear. This is why so many people do it. And so we advocate for you to become owners, right? When you are renting, those payments are never running out. When you are a homeowner, you know those payments are going to run out, and it doesn't necessarily have to be 30 years. It is whatever loan structure you put in place for yourself. So some people start off in a 30-year loan just to get a taste of how this homeownership thing goes, especially if you've never been a homeowner, right? And there's nothing scary about homeowner. Well, for some people it may be scary, but when done right, it doesn't have to be a scary situation, right? With the right foundation and education, you'll be just fine, I feel like. But at least you know, if it does come down to 30 years, after 30 years, those payments run out. If you are buying a home at the age of 20, by 50, you're done, right? And then you have no more monthly payment. Let's say you restructure that 30-year loan after 5 years to a 20-year, or maybe even a 15. You're cutting that term in half. You could be owning this asset outright. It's likely going to be worth a couple $100,000 at the very least, right? This is money that you can use to continue to build your future. So your future self thanks you when you're making a move such as this. And so you always need to think about that, is when you're getting into homeownership or acquiring assets, we need to not have a mindset of what it's going to do for us 6 months from now, a year from now. Smart investors are thinking, how do I put myself in a place where my future self thanks me 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now? When you're done working your 9 to 5, if that's what you're doing, or you're hanging up, your personal business, you have this cushion. You've paid it off. It's good. Now you got a couple, maybe a few $100,000 just sitting there, and it can be converted to cash. So keep that in mind. Like, you asked me what's one of the main things about home ownership. That to me is a major one. With rentals, it's never running out. With the rental, if something happens to you today, you cannot pass that apartment or that rental home on to a family member. With your home, your assets, you can will your asset to other family members. Like, it's just the fact of the matter. So that's the biggest thing. Now, to answer your question about one that is a 1099 person, or they're self-employed, could be sole proprietor, whatever the case may be, business owners. The rules are a little different, right? Because you don't have the W-2. So when you are someone who works, you're classified as an employee, you're getting W-2s, they're going to need to see from you W-2s for the last 2 years, tax returns for the last 2 years, bank statements, pay stubs. They'll do employment verification. When you don't have that paperwork because you're self-employed or a business owner, there are other things you'll have to provide. Profit and loss statements. Still going to have to do tax returns, right? They have different loans out there. I'm not well versed in all of them, but there are bank statement loans where you're showing, I don't have W-2s, but I can show you my bank statements, and here are my consistent deposits. So that serves really as your pay stub. This is my money. And there are some lenders that offer bank statement loans. So there are options available, I feel like, really for anyone. You just have to tap into it and make sure that you're speaking with the right person.
Look, I just want to thank you for that information. Really, truly, because a lot of people don't know about it, and a lot of people look at it as, well, as a scary thing. And you actually touched on one thing that, if you could just expound on it just a little bit. You talked about how you can take the property asset and that becomes cash. What does that
Yep.
mean?
Yep. So it's very simple. When you put your house on the market and you're putting it up for sale. Now, I'm going to go into a little deeper, but let me just give you the easy way first. Let's say you own a property outright and your property is worth $300,000. If you've fallen on hard time and you need cash, you can sell the house if you want. You can sell it for the 300,000, and then you'll have that money sitting in your account. If you're in a position to do so, you could do a home equity loan. You can pull equity out of the house, meaning if your house is worth 300,000, you don't have any money, and you're like, bank, I need to pull out $100,000 and have that in my account. You're now going to have a lien against the house for the $100,000. You'll make monthly payments, but now you're liquid. You have funds in your account to do what it is you need to do with that money. So being a homeowner is leverage. When you are renting, these are the benefits of homeownership that you are not able to tap into. But who is able to tap into these benefits is the actual landlord, the person that owns the property. They know this. This is why they're doing it, but we don't know it. Like,
Okay.
but I feel like we're getting to the point where we're starting to get it. We're definitely getting to the point where we're starting to get it. Now, let's say you still have a balance due on the amount of money that you borrowed from the bank to acquire your property. So let's say is we had a couple of people who have seen equity in their houses within the past 3 years that has exceeded 50,000. So we had somebody who bought their house at 130. 3 years later here, I valued the house at 180. It sold for 205. So the market is also driving up the return on investment for sellers out there currently. Sellers are making way more money on their sales right now, which is a good thing. I'm not mad at the sellers, right? I'm a little sad for the buyers, but because it's so competitive, but I'm not mad for the sellers because this is what it's all about. And remember what I said, like, regardless of whether you're an investor or not, this is an investment. You're investing your hard-earned money into this property. And so that's a great investment. $70,000 in 3 years, that's excellent. That's excellent. And so when you pay off that balance, right, you have to pay the bank back for what you borrowed from them. So if the balance is 125, you have to pay that back, but the balance comes to you. Whatever's remaining on top of what you made after you paid the bank back is your money. So you're still technically converting that property into cash. It's now become liquid cash that you can do with whatever you choose to do.
Listen, I am truly grateful for you actually giving this information to people, because a lot of people do not know this information. And we always hear,
Right.
well, no, there's some downsides to the being a homeowner, and you got to repair this, but nobody actually explains the benefits the way that you just did it. And then even the process and all of the different tiers and different categories. And if you want to be a home buyer, you moving in, or you being an investor. So I just truly thank you. So again, tell the people where they can find you if they want to get connected with you, if they're looking to buy a property, if they want to be an investor, if they are an investor and they want to, work with you guys, where can they actually reach out to you at?
Absolutely. So again, my name is Dawn Harris. I'm with the Daybreak team of Keller Williams, Philadelphia. My business partner is Dawn Fussell. So Daybreak team is a play on our first names, Dawn and Dawn. All right. And if you are looking to reach us, our main number, our team number is 610-601-6961. My email address, my personal email is dawn.harris@daybreakteam.com. And on social media for Instagram, you can find me at Dawn Harris Real Estate. And Instagram, my business page is also Dawn Harris Real Estate.
Look, I again truly thank you for joining us here. So as I always say, remember, greatness is a mindset. Have a mindset of greatness. Greatness is within you. And on that note, go be great. Now it's time for Ask Mr. Mindful Minute. So ask Mr. Mindful Minute himself any questions that you would like to ask me. So go away.
I would. I have several actually, with the first one being, what was it that catapulted you into starting a podcast, one that is geared towards helping people?
Because I really believe that people should have something to go to instead of being entertained all the time, and they get information where they're enlightened. So I started the podcast because I was like, man, I like listening to certain podcasts, but I don't really like how they do it. And I know that I want to do it a certain way. So when I started it, I said, well, what do I want to talk about? And I always said, man, I have so much knowledge about different areas. You know what? I want to create a podcast where people will be able to say, this information really helped me in my life, not just in one area of my life, because we know we always talk about money, money, money. But I'm like, no, I want to create a podcast that's going to help people in all areas of their life.
Okay, that's good stuff. Now, what is, I guess, your biggest piece of advice for entrepreneurs who know they have what it takes to realize their vision, but don't necessarily have the right mindset?
All right. So first,
and what mindset would that be?
All right. So first, you have to know that the vision was given to you. And if the vision was given to you, you cannot expect somebody else to push you into your vision. It was yours. Because my glasses don't fit your eyes. So you have to now do whatever it takes, within reason, obviously, do whatever it takes in order to make your vision crystal clear. So the same way you go to the eye doctor and they say, oh, well, this one or this one, this one or this one. You got to keep trying to focus on the vision. And then if you are a person that says, well, I don't know, I know what I want to do, but I don't have the mindset to actually do it, go and get some type of help to recalibrate your mindset. Maybe you got to get a coach that is going to help you with mindset so you can stop limiting your beliefs, because that's why you have the mindset that you have, because you have been conditioned to limiting your ideas and saying, well, this is the only way that you can do it. Well, the thing is, maybe you are the person that needs to show other people that there is another way. I never seen entrepreneurship in my family, but I am now creating entrepreneurship so my daughter can actually see that. So people that I know can say, oh, you know what? There is another way. Okay. And I'm not going to act like I don't have a job. Also, I do have that. But there is also another way. And then so the steps that a person could actually take I would say, visualize. So this is what I do with my coaching. I'm gonna say visualize what it is that you want to actually become. So close your eyes and now see that person that you want to become. So if you see the person that when you get out of your bed, you like, oh, well, when I walk past the mirror, that person looks like this. Oh, I'm confident. When I'm doing these things, I'm confident. So once you visualize yourself as somebody, you know what your vision is. So now visualize yourself as that person. What does she look like? What does he look like? Does she look like somebody who is taking care of business or getting a podcast done or doing the stuff for their business? You got to start visualizing it, because once you visualize it, it is going to help you to now stay focused and say, let me learn whatever I need to learn, because that's why you actually don't have confidence in it. You don't have enough teaching, enough knowledge to make you say, I can do this. And we know that everything that we do, once we get enough knowledge in it, that's what makes us confident in now speaking about it or even doing it. So remember, get the knowledge that you need, and then with the knowledge, implement that knowledge, because knowledge is not key. Implementation of the knowledge is what's key.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right, I have one more question and I'm done. I promise.
Yeah, no, you're
My
good.
last question is, and it's two-part. So I noticed that before you get started, you take a deep breath. So I'd be curious to know what that is. Like, are you segment intenting? Like, what is it? And then, do you meditate? And then I'm done. Those are my last two questions.
All right. So the reason that I take a deep breath is because we have to learn how to exist first. We have to learn how to be. And so when we focus on our breathing, it helps us to create peace in ourselves. It helps us to really just be, because we have so many thoughts in our mind. Even while we're doing something, we're thinking about something else. And so once you actually take a deep breath and just be and focus on the breathing, it helps you to clear your mind from all of the other things that you have to do, and you focus and intentionalize on what you are doing. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right. So the
absolutely, 100%. And do you meditate? Yes.
And do I meditate? And the answer is yes, I do meditate. I meditate in different ways. I don't always meditate the same way. And so when I do my meditations, I do it in a way that's going to help me channel and focus myself, channel and focus my energy. Sometimes I might be meditating in a way where I'm trying to get reconnected with the creator. I'm trying to line myself up with that. So we do have to have forms of meditation that is going to help center us, because meditation is another form of keeping your power. Because when we don't do something to keep our power, we're going to find ourselves like a dead battery. It's almost like a cell phone that's never charged up. At some point, it is going to die. And so we have to find something that is going to help us to actually recharge. And that's why I do different forms of meditation and things like that. So, yeah.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you for that time.
No problem. Appreciate the questions. Thank you for this segment of Ask Mr. Mindful Minute. So just know, again, greatness is within you, and greatness is a mindset. And my challenge is always, always go and be great.
You're in control of how you feel. You're in control. You are the determining factor of your feelings. No one else can control how you feel. Remember, you're in control how you feel. So control your feelings.